afternoon. Can someone let me know if you can hear me?
Just fine.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I actually would like to hear y'all a little better. Let me see if I can turn up my audio. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get started. If any technical issues do come up, please speak up. I may not be able to see you because I'm gonna have my PowerPoint going, but if any technical issues come up and for some reason you can't hear me or some other thing, like you're not actually looking at my PowerPoint, please just say something out loud so I'll hear you. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, I got some things in the chat. Okay, Angie, thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you for joining me for this webinar, Applying for Extramural Arts Funding. Please note that the Zoom call is being recorded. My name is Carolyn Bradley, and I work for FSU's Office of Research Development, ORD. As the Arts and Humanities Funding Specialist for my office, I'm tasked with growing arts and humanities grants and creative activity at FSU. I'm intending this virtual webinar as a primer in seeking arts funding awards. Many arts faculty do not have a lot of experience in applying for grants or fellowships, so I want to help you learn the basics of this process so that you'll feel comfortable getting started. Importantly, FSU has a strong infrastructure in place for extramural funding awards. If nothing else, I hope that I make clear in this workshop that you're not alone in your ventures in seeking extramural funding, and that the university and my office is here to help you in every step of the way. Never hesitate to contact my office, ord@fsu.edu, or me, cbradley@fsu.edu. Okay. There's a little bit of feedback. If you don't need to have, if possible, mute yourself so that we can get rid of the feedback. Okay, I think everyone is muted now. Okay. Okay, thank you, Carrie Ann. I just thought she's concerned that there aren't many funding opportunities. Okay. Okay, I just want to quickly just explain a little bit about what my office does. The Office of Research Development is it's a central office here at FSU designed to mostly for research support. So our strategy is our mission is strengthening research competitiveness at FSU. Along with providing workshops like this one, we offer a broad range of services and resources for FSU faculty who might be interested in seeking research funding. Importantly, while my office is the Office of Research Development, I appreciate that the arts are a little different. And while some arts faculty might be looking for research funding, others might be looking for funding for arts projects or performances, exhibits, that kind of thing. And we're here to help you as well. So that's why I titled it Applying for Extramural Arts Funding instead of applying for arts research funding, because I just wanted to be clear that we can help you too. Most importantly, perhaps we offer personalized consulting. So if you want to start thinking like long-term plans for funding some of the projects you have in mind, we can just sit down and have a talk, really take it from scratch. Like, how can we get there? If you've narrowed in on a specific funding opportunity you'd like to apply for, we are also there to help you every step of the way put the application together. We also coordinate the CRC, the Council on Research and Creativity, which manages several internal funding programs. Our hope is that faculty can apply for these small internal funding programs, win, and then leverage those wins to secure larger extramural funding awards. We also help spark new collaborations across campus. So we bring people together who maybe from various disciplines, not necessarily see themselves as overlapping, and then realize how they can, kind of create new exciting projects. In some cases, like I'm here to help you anytime, so you can always reach out to me. In some cases, as we'll be talking about, there may be better people on campus for you to talk to, in which case I can help you get in contact with them. You don't need to worry. Like I've heard faculty saying, oh, I don't know when to contact Peggy, I don't know when to contact David, I don't know when to contact Carolyn. So don't let that kind of thing stop you. Just reach out to me and I'll help you from there, get you in touch with the right person. Okay, so I think there are kind of like 4 main types of extramural funding I'm kind of thinking about right now. There's grants. So I'm technically the right person for that. Like I said, don't let this stop you, but this is, I'm technically the right person to help you with grants. So grants basically fund a specific project. So versus fellowships, which you can say fund a specific person. Fellowships fund a specific researcher or arts practitioner, offering them time to focus on their work. Meanwhile, career development awards fund a specific early career researcher or arts practitioner to undertake a specific project to begin to establish an independent program and career. The best person for fellowships and career development awards is Peggy Wright Cleveland. If you don't know Peggy, she's the director of faculty development. The final big option is corporate gifts. In some cases, companies may want to offer financial gifts to support the arts at FSU. For these kinds of opportunities, the best person on campus to speak with is David Lipton, the development officer at the FSU Foundation. So corporate gifts and the kinds of proposals that David works with are a little different than what I'm going to be mostly talking about here in this presentation. But the foundation is super helpful. So like if you're interested in one of these opportunities or you think you might be, you can just reach out to David and he can really help you. The applications tend to look really different and he knows the various, organizations really well. So he can, walk you through putting together an application. He can help with writing the proposal and he knows what the priorities and expectations of these different organizations are. So he is a great person. And I think he is actually on this call. Yes, he is. Hi, David. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to kind of explore some considerations to keep in mind. Why might some arts faculty be reluctant to seek extramural funding? A lot of arts faculty don't have the kind of formal training in applying for grants that you see in other fields. So they may arrive to their first faculty positions without experience in that. That may not be how they, have learned to spend their time. So some of it is just, just the basic learning curve, learning what to do. That said, even as arts faculty learn more about the kinds of funding awards available to them, learn more about the process, they still may have, they still may have pressing concerns that this isn't, a good avenue for them to go down. I think the big issue is that funding awards may not be required for tenure or other promotion opportunities down the line. And I think that is a fair concern. Obviously, if you win some of these grants, it can be helpful. You can they can lead to the kinds of things that you may need to accomplish for tenure. But that said, it may be that your chair thinks that it would be wiser for you to focus on other responsibilities that are going to be needed. And in fact, I've heard from some chairs, they will just say they really recommend faculty just don't even think about applying for extramural awards until after they have had tenure. So that might just be the right thing to do. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about is just the importance of meeting with your chair and kind of talking about, long range goals for your career here and where funding awards fit in with your personal trajectory and also the needs of your department. Okay, so teaching obligations may present a hurdle because a lot of these funding opportunities are fellowships, which would take you away from campus and require you to request course release. All departments have different rules regarding course release, and I know some departments have a rule that faculty members have to have been teaching a standard course load for a certain amount of years if they want to be permitted course release. Importantly, though, most departments do allow plenty of exceptions, and sometimes the conditions can be relaxed. So if you ever wish to apply and you worry your teaching obligations might present a hurdle, you should definitely talk to your chair. And also don't hesitate to reach out to us here at ORD, and we can see if there might be some way we can help you. Also, with that in mind, because course obligations are, important hurdle, we do recommend that you specifically think about applying for sabbatical funding opportunities. And it may be that you want to start thinking about those several years in advance of your next sabbatical. And I say that because a lot of these fellowships or grants, by the time you apply for them, it's almost worth applying 2 or 3 times, just because sometimes the admissions rates are, acceptance rates are quite low. So then they give you feedback, you can resubmit, then you get feedback again. Each time you're getting closer to, your likelihood of winning is a little higher. Okay. And then the third obstacle is that many programs are highly competitive, and becoming more so. And at a certain point, you start to ask yourself, is this worth my time? Like, is this the best investment of my time? Applying for these opportunities. I will say, I think it's absolutely true that many of the programs are highly competitive, and you think of, highly prestigious awards like the Guggenheim Fellowship, I think has a 5 to 6% success rate. That's for obviously more accomplished artists and, mid-career at least. But the National Endowment for the Arts programs, for example, they have an applicant success rate that varies from literally about 2% all the way up to 66%, with a funding ratio across all programs of approximately 34%. So 34% is the average program success rate, applicant success rate of the different programs of the NEA. And this is competitive, but just to give some perspective, like the NEH has an average of 20%, and the NEH, the National Endowment for the Humanities, has an average of across all programs of roughly 16%. So it's not as competitive as those. So it seems to me they're still worth going for. At the same time, there are some smaller grants that can be worth applying for. They may not take you away from, your course work for a full semester, a year, but they can be little things you can do that can bring, you could bring a panel of speakers to campus, or you could put together a little art, like just a little art exhibit with, maybe something small. And those are kind of just exciting things you can do. Okay. So why apply? Okay. Most importantly, just to free up one's time to focus on art or research. There are a range of funding opportunities you can apply for, which will replace all or part of your salary to free you from university duties for an academic year. Or you might also apply for funding opportunities that will pay you, for instance, like summer salary. You might also apply for money to obtain resources, including travel money, so that you can, produce art or art shows or conduct research. Purchase needed supplies or equipment, pay student assistance, travel to put on an art performance abroad, do research in distant libraries or archives, conduct field work, or more. You can use grants to create educational programs. You can use these kinds of awards to build personal prestige and institutional prestige. In fact, winning one of these, like winning a grant or fellowship, actually increases your likelihood of being awarded more grants and fellowships. So the more funding opportunities you win, the more you'll continue to win. So that's kind of nice. At the same time, when faculty members receive grants and fellowships, they increase the prestige of FSU as a whole, as well as the prestige of the department and college. And some of these funding awards, as you may know, are Tayari Awards, have American Research Universities Awards. Those, like, when FSU gets those help our performance metrics. And so faculty members who win those Tayari Awards have a permanent increase in their salary. In recent years, FSU faculty in the arts have won funding awards that have allowed them to do exciting things like put on theater performances featuring professionals and FSU theater MFA students, host a 10-day laboratory program in dance to bring together emerging artists and field leaders from around the US to provide mentorship, support an exhibition by contemporary artists on the impact of hurricanes on communities around the US, and conduct a research study on how art therapy might mitigate mental health consequences associated with the COVID pandemic. Okay, so if you haven't heard of Pivot, it's FSU's, we have access to this like database, and it has something like 15,000 plus funding sponsors and like over $100 billion worth of funding. I have all those numbers down, but I can't find them at the moment. It's very rich, can be very overwhelming, but it's good to create a personalized search in Pivot so that you would get weekly alerts to funding opportunities that might be relevant for you. I get them for my fields, and then they come Sunday night, and then on Monday morning I can just check and see. And so you can personalize it. Like I would only want things that I would be eligible for, and then that would be relevant to my research interests. You don't have a profile on Pivot, send me an email. I can help you get set up. Okay, just wanted to talk about some main sponsors in the arts. Okay, so obviously the large federal agency. I hope y'all aren't putting things in the chat because I'm not seeing them. I'm having a hard time. I'm sorry. If you want to say anything, don't hesitate to just like interrupt me. Okay, I will have some time at the end for questions. So, okay, so the National Endowment for the Arts, that's the large federal agency for promoting and strengthening arts in the US. And then some local agencies, we have the Florida Division of Arts and Culture, and that's dedicated to promoting arts and culture to strengthen the economy and quality of life in Florida. It has several cultural grant programs, including the General Program Support Program, which funds general program activities of an organization, and then specific cultural projects program, which will fund one specific project, exhibition, or series taking place within the grant period. The Florida Division of Historical Resources, that provides funding for historic preservation. And it offers grants to assist local, regional, and statewide efforts to preserve significant historic and archaeological resources and to promote knowledge and appreciation of the history of Florida. The South Arts is our regional arts organization. So it's for the states of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And it supports arts and organizations through a rich portfolio of grants, fellowships, and programs. And then COCA, the Council on Culture and Arts, that's Tallahassee's nonprofit organization for arts and culture. They offer grant programs that support cultural programming, cultural facilities, and marketing. In fact, the City Commission, you may have heard, just approved a $300,000 investment in COCA's cultural grant program. And this grant program actually had an application cycle that closed back in May, but with this new news, COCA is actually going to be opening up a second application cycle, opening up again soon. They initially said mid-October. I don't think it's happening yet, but they're going to be opening it again. And I'm in contact now with their grants manager, Hillary Crawford, and she's actually said that she would give a talk for FSU's arts faculty. So I will be in touch soon about that. She said she would do it before their new application cycle opens. Okay. Some other agencies are the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, DDCF. So they're not just an arts agency, but they're huge. They administer, they basically fund a large range of initiatives, including a lot of arts and cultural programming in the US. And they don't have really like open grants programs you can apply for. Instead, they tend to funnel most of their money like through like subsidiary organizations that will then accept proposals and have the peer review process and selection. But they're a good foundation to keep your eye on because they do draw attention to a lot of these like intermediary organizations that they partner with to have like their money flow through. And so you can get updates on those smaller organizations. We have the Ford Foundation. That's committed to reducing poverty and oppression, strengthening democracy, promoting international cooperation, and advancing human achievement. They have a creativity and free expression program that funds art projects. For most of their programs, you actually have to receive an invitation from the agency, so you can't just apply, but they do have an open grant opportunity for documentary filmmaking. Okay, the Guggenheim Foundation, they offer fellowships. Their fellowships are Tehru Awards. So they're recognized by FSU's Extraordinary Accomplishment Program, and winning one, like I said, leads to a permanent salary increase. The Mellon Foundation offers grants to support a wide range of arts and humanities initiatives, but again, for most of their programs, you do have to receive an invitation from the agency. The Metropolitan Museum of Art of New York City, it has a fellowship program for scholars in art history, archaeology, museum education, conservation, and related sciences, as well as scholars in other disciplines who are creating projects that can benefit from close studies of objects in the Met collection. The National Gallery of Art of Washington, D.C., they have a research institute, the Center for Advanced Study in the Visual Arts. So it offers visiting professorships and fellowships, and it supports research in the history, theory, and criticism of the visual arts of any geographic period in any area. The Schubert Foundation, it provides general operating support for live performing arts in the US, with a primary emphasis on theater and a secondary emphasis on dance. And the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts. It's focused on serving the needs of artists by funding the institutions that support them through grants for scholarly exhibitions at museums, curatorial research, visual arts programming at artist-centered organizations, artist residencies and commissions, arts writing, and efforts to promote the health, welfare, and First Amendment rights of artists. Okay. The National Endowment for the Arts' Grants for Arts project is that's the NEA's like principal grants program. I want to just kind of just quickly show it to you. Okay, can you see this? Can you see this Grants for Arts project page?
Yes, thank
you. Okay, all right, so this is the program's opening page. And you can see that it's divided by all these artistic disciplines. So they fund arts projects in all of these disciplines. Each program is different, but most of the programs, there are a couple exceptions, but most of the programs, they have 2 application cycles per year. But hard to explain, but like FSU as a whole can only submit 1 application period. Then there are some exceptions, and an important one is media arts. I don't want to get too, I don't want to go too deep with that because I'm worried it'll just confuse people and scare them away. But anyway, this is a limited submissions program. So it means that if you're interested in applying for one of these, you need to let my office know. Actually, I'm the limited submissions coordinator. Just let me know you're interested in applying. And then if there are other people who are interested, we will need to have an internal competition to determine who has the strongest project in mind, who has the most competitive project in mind. And then we will advance that application. And I will be talking about limited submissions a little bit more. Note that the grants for arts projects are okay here. Grants range from $10,000 to $100,000. All grants require a non-federal cost share or match of at least 1-to-1. Okay, so that means that if you're applying for a grant for $100,000, you need to be able to provide a matching, some kind of cost sharing agreement of $100,000 to complement it. And we'll be talking about that in a second. Okay. The Florida Division of Arts and Cultures grant programs are similarly require cost share, one-to-one cost share, one-to-one match. Okay. Okay, so questions to consider when you are thinking about applying for a funding opportunity. Is the program eligible to individuals or organizations? Okay, so when you're looking at the eligibility criteria of the Notice of Funding Opportunity, I call them NOFOs because that's what some of the agencies call them, NOFO. There's a million other names for them, but I'm just going to call them NOFOs. Is the program eligible to individuals or organizations? When you look at the NOFO, go to the eligibility criteria and see who is eligible. So if it just says individual scholars or individual artists, then you're applying as yourself. If it's not for them, if it's for organizations, then you need to start thinking about maybe applying on behalf of FSU. And so you need to see what kinds of organizations are eligible. And FSU, if it says, for instance, institutions of higher education, or if it says units of state government, if it says nonprofit organizations with the 501c3 IRS status, then FSU is eligible. And I have heard from several arts faculty, there does seem to be a misperception that if it's not eligible, if the eligibility is not for individuals, they think they can't apply. They think like it had that because it's like for organizations, it's not for them. But I just want to clear this up. You can apply, you're just applying on behalf of FSU. So it's a good thing because it means that like you've been vetted by FSU, you know, we have your back in case there are any like weird lawsuits, all of that. So it just means that you're applying on behalf of FSU. I did want to say there are some cases where agencies might be willing to distinguish between a parent organization like FSU and a smaller independent component within the organization. In these cases, the independent components can apply for funding programs separately from FSU. But you do need, if you want to apply as an independent component, you do need the you do need the agency's approval ahead of time that you can be an independent component. And so all of the agencies have their own requirements. The NEA requires that independent components, people who are interested in applying as independent components, fill out this form ahead of time and get a pre-approval. At FSU, for example, MOFA and MANSI are approved by the NEA as independent components, and they apply for NEA programs independently from FSU. And you can see if a program is a limited submissions funding opportunity and an organization is only permitted to advance, say, one application, it can be good to apply as an independent component because then you don't have to, you're not competing with everyone else at FSU who wants to apply for that program. Okay, so if the program is eligible to individuals, you typically don't need to work with FSU's Central Research Administration offices. You don't need to work with them in general. There may be advantages to doing so. So I'm not saying don't talk to them, but I'm just saying you may not have to apply through FSU's infrastructure in place for that. If you're applying on behalf of FSU, though, you definitely do. In general, that means entering your materials into RAMP, the Research Administration Management Portal that FSU has, where it houses, our research proposals. In some cases, like any project, any proposal you'd be working with David, RAMP won't be involved at the foundation. But if you're working with the SRA, the Sponsored Research Administration, or FSRF, the FSU Research Foundation, then you're going to need to have your application materials entered into RAMP. If it's a federal agency, RAMP is set up so it'll just literally route your application materials directly to the federal agency. If it's not a federal agency, it may be that you'll need to both enter your materials into RAMP and enter your materials into the sponsors portal, and you'll have it both places. But FSU needs that documentation because you're representing FSU. Okay. So you'll need to ask yourself, is the program eligible to individuals, organizations? Is the program a limited submissions opportunity? Okay, so it's important to ask yourself if it's a limited submissions opportunity because of the fact that if it is a limited submissions opportunity, my job is to set an internal deadline for those opportunities. Currently, I'm working with 10 business weeks in advance. So if the agency deadline, whatever the agency deadline is, my internal deadline is going to be 10 business weeks before that. So if you're interested in this opportunity, you need to be sure that you let me know before that time, because otherwise it may no longer be available, because anyone else who expressed interest by that internal deadline, it'll go to that group. Anyway, so ask yourself, is this program a limited submissions opportunity? If it is, you want to go to our FSU's limited submissions portal and see if it's posted there. And then if it is, then find out the internal deadline. If it's not posted there, then email me and I will post it for you, and we will get that ball rolling. Okay. Will you need to submit a budget? It's an important question. For a lot of the fellowships, you do not. For grants, you do. Will you need to make a cost sharing agreement? Okay, and cost sharing is kind of what I was talking about with, the Grant for Arts project, the Grants for Arts program. A cost sharing agreement is, well, what is cost share? Let's ask. Cost share is the portion of total project costs that's not provided by the sponsor. So matching funds, people often use that term interchangeably with cost share. It's not. Matching funds is really a type of cost share. For matching funds is when the grantee matches the sponsor funding according to a specified ratio. So here at FSU, a common way to do that is, let's say like a faculty member wants to apply for a grant, and we want to, the sponsor says, okay, well, we need matching funds of 1-to-1, then we'll make a cost share agreement we'll say like, okay, well then the department will offer a third, the college will offer a third, and the Office of Research will offer a third. That's one way of providing a cost sharing agreement, literally saying we're gonna have this money available and it's gonna go toward the project. And so the chair, dean, and vice president of research in that case would need to sign a letter of commitment. But sources for cost share can be other things besides matching funds. It might be a faculty member's salary, in some cases admissions tickets, volunteer hours, and many other things. If you're applying for a grant that requires cost share and you're stumped on how to procure cost share, talk to me and we can see what kinds of options are available for you. Note, course release constitutes a form of cost share, so you need to keep that in mind. And the reason it's a form of cost share is because the university is covering that. So in order for you to do this work, FSU needs to find someone else to teach your class, so that that's a part of the total project's costs, not covered by the sponsor. Okay, so just some typical proposal requirements. So if you come to me with a NOFO, or basically I would want to just like go through it with you and look at all of the different components that you're going to need to put together. And these are some of the ones you kind of frequently see. An abstract. So the abstract is the summary of the proposal. In the abstract, you want to be clear about your specific area of expertise, because a program officer who may not be familiar with your work or your area of expertise is going to use the abstract to find reviewers for your proposal. So you want to make sure that the program officer can identify, okay, so this person is an expert in this kind of art. I'm going to see what reviewers I can find who know something about that. That said, you do want to make sure that the abstract explains the value of your project in a way that is comprehensible to the general public. And this is becoming increasingly important as federal arts funding are more scrutinized by politicians and taxpayers who may only have access to your abstract. Okay, the narrative, that's an overview of your project. That's the largest portion of the proposal, and we'll break down what the narrative typically consists of later. A budget, you'll need to provide a budget in some cases, if it's a grant, almost certainly. And the amount of funding available will fundamentally determine how much and what types of work you can actually do, and thus your methods and work plan. If you need help formulating a budget, most departments have a grants analyst either within the department or the college level to assist. you'll need a budget justification. A budget justification must specifically describe how each budget item will support the proposed project. The justification will also break down how costs have been calculated. Okay, in some cases, your budget will include subawards. So a subaward is when the main award, what they call the prime award, is awarded to FSU, but then you have a project co-director at another institution. And the money comes to FSU, and then we pay the other institution to carry out their portion of the work. The sub-awarded project co-director will be responsible for programmatic decision-making and having considerable discretionary judgment in the performance of the work. Usually when you have a sub-award in your budget, that person, the project co-director will just write their little budget and provide it to FSU, and then FSU will approve it. In some cases, your budget might include consultants. Those are usually paid at an hourly rate. And in some cases, your budget might include contractors. And a contractor provides goods or services within normal business operations and operates in a competitive environment, providing similar goods and services to a variety of customers. A contractor might provide, for example, data processing, translating services, routine analytical testing services, etc. Okay. References, you usually want to provide references of just, citations from the proposal itself. Appendices, these might be supplementary materials such as evaluation plan, data management plan, data collection instruments, etc. Resumes for key personnel. So you'll need resumes for yourself, the project director, and other staff with major responsibilities for the project. Letters of commitment or support. Letters of commitment should be provided from appropriate officials confirming the institution's commitment to the project. So it might be FSU's letter promising a cost sharing agreement. Letters of support can also be included. And these might be from experts in your field or community leaders, participants in the project, or beneficiaries of the project, people who can, vouch for you so that they think this will be a worthwhile endeavor. Okay, so I put together a list of 12 primary steps to prepare a proposal. With this, I'm referring to grants, primarily grants and fellowships, the traditional kind where you write out, a proposal, you submit it, there's certain guidelines, you write it out, you submit it. These are different from if you need to work with David for corporate gifts and other kinds of fellowships. Okay, and other kinds of grants. Okay, so contact me for grants. Again, every solicitation is different, so I'm going to have to look at it, obviously, when you send it to me, but I'll let you know if I'm the right person. These are just kind of like broad guidelines to avoid confusing things too much. Okay, contact me for grants or Peggy for fellowships to brainstorm and identify promising opportunities. Okay, contact your chair and possibly your dean for approval to apply. So this next step, I'm sure the chairs would prefer this. I put this as the first step. I just put the step above it because it's helpful to brainstorm with someone. But this step, the chairs really want you to talk to them before applying for grants or fellowships. Again, this is just because if you take a fellowship that might require course release, that has implications for your colleagues in the department. And so they really want to talk with you about it beforehand. Now, these conversations are tricky just because due to the competitive nature of these awards, you can't just assume, oh, you apply and you're going to get it. You really don't. It could be a couple years before you get it. You have to keep applying. But anyway, the chairs want to have these conversations. At the same time, the dean, you want to talk to the dean if there is going to be cost share. If there's going to be cost share, including course release, then you need the dean's approval to apply as well. Okay, once you have approval to apply, circle back to me or Peggy for assistance, and we will chart out a plan. Okay, we'll help you make a formal plan, including a checklist and a timeline. So the checklist will literally just be a list of every document you will need to prepare and some basic notes about it so that you're sure not to overlook anything. The timeline will be when you have needed to complete what in order to be sure that we can get this thing in on time. In creating the timeline, we work backwards from the proposal due date. Developing and sticking to the schedule will decrease your stress, anxiety, and increase your ability to secure needed help. Okay. You'll need to contact the FSU office that will oversee the administration of the proposal/award, if applicable. Okay, so remember, if you're applying as an individual, it may not be necessary for you to work with any central grants administration office. That said, it can still be a good idea just to talk to them. In some cases, you can apply as an individual and still work through the central office, and there are advantages to doing so. Okay, these offices are Sponsored Research Administration, therefore publicly funded grants, publicly funded awards. The FSU Research Foundation, they are for, I'm going to say, private awards, although technically they and the foundation are for private awards. And then there are just some distinctions about when you go to which. Okay, so you want to contact this office sooner rather than later. Really, as soon as you've decided you're going to apply for a funding opportunity, let that central office know, because they're going to provide you, first they're going to provide you a date when they need your materials entered into RAMP. Traditionally, they say 3 business days prior to the agency deadline, but there are all kinds of exceptions. So you want to go ahead and get that date from them. When do they need your materials into RAMP? And then they'll have other information to tell you as well. So just it's good for everybody if they can go ahead and put you on their list. Okay. Contact your grants analyst about the budget if applicable. So if you're going to need to be working with, if you're going to need to put together a budget, you want to speak to the person in your department or college who can help you. Okay, contact the program officer. Okay, so I really advocate that when you're applying for a funding opportunity, you invest some time in getting to know the sponsor. That starts with just exploring their website, becoming familiar with their goals, so you can look up their mission statement, see what their priorities are, see what this this sponsor is all about. Obviously, this can help you decide if this is a good fit for your project, but also if there are ways that, if there are places of overlap, you can emphasize those in your proposal. Review proposals which the sponsor has previously awarded. So that's very helpful. So when I'm working with faculty, I try to find other people either at FSU or at other institutions who have won the award that they're interested in. And then we ask those faculty members if they can share their successful proposal. In some cases, the agencies have the proposals on the websites, past successful proposals. And finally, build a relationship with the program officer. So this is sort of like the concrete action step. Actually send an email to the program officer listed. And you can just, the idea is to kind of get them a little bit invested in your project. So you can tell them about your project, ask if they think it's a good fit for the program, or if there's another program they think it'd be a better fit for. And then they can provide you, they'll get to know a little bit about you, and they can provide you some feedback that'll be helpful. Okay. I'm going to need to gather the needed materials and information from external parties. Okay, compose a compelling narrative. So that, like I said, the narrative is the longest portion of the proposal. And you have your introduction or your research questions. So you'll start with just explaining the question you're exploring. Now, obviously in research, it's kind of obvious, but if you're doing an artwork, there's typically kind of a question motivating it as well. It may be an aesthetic, spiritual, socio-political question, there's something that's, that's driving you to explore. And so you want to kind of foreground that. Okay, and then the significance. This is the most important, really most important part of the whole proposal. What is the major contribution that you're giving? So you want to emphasize the significance of your work. What is your methodology? What's going to be your timeline for completing it? What is the dissemination of results going to look like? Or how are you going to be able to ensure that it's available to, a broad range of people in a timely manner? And what are your specific qualifications? What makes you the perfect person to complete this project? Okay. And regarding how to kind of make your proposal salable, spinning it around Intrigue, it seems to be, a successful approach. So the idea is like, you want to spark your readers' curiosity. So with the idea of like, there's a body on the floor, who done it, make it exciting. Like, there's a question here and it's very interesting. Pull that out. At the same time, you want to persuade that your project is innovative. So it hasn't been done before. I mean, it's kind of, groundbreaking. It's feasible. Actually, the project you're suggesting isn't just pie in the sky. You really can pull this off. And it's promising. The results are going to make a difference. It's going to make it a valuable contribution, whether to your field, to the community. Okay. Submit the proposal for peer review. So this is an important one. Ideally, I don't even want to say ideally, it should just be a fact. When you write a proposal, it should be peer reviewed before you submit it to the agency. Just want to get more eyes on it, ideally from other experts in the field. My office offers a mock review panel program, so you're always welcome to work with me, and then I will find 3 internal reviewers for you, other faculty members on campus who can give you feedback. But if you don't have time for a mock review program, if you can just give just talk to one of your colleagues and say, would you mind, reading my proposal, and just get their feedback. Okay, then you're going to need to enter materials into RAMP or the agency submission portal if applicable. Confirm receipt by the agency. So the NEA, for example, like literally says, we consider it your duty to confirm that we've actually received your proposal. So you just, after you've submitted it, so after you've submitted through RAMP, remember, it'll be automatically routed to the agency. You should go into the agency's portal yourself and literally check, have they received it? And like I said, a lot of these funding programs, they are competitive, and so you may not win the first time. But if a funding program is worth preparing a proposal for, it's worth submitting to at least 2 or 3 times. So you really want to be prepared that you'll get turned down the first time. You'll also get the feedback. In most cases, most of the programs offer feedback. And so then next year you can revise your proposal and make it stronger. Okay, so those are the 12 steps. I think that is probably all I'll go over today. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to stop sharing.
Hi, I have a question. Hi, Carolyn.
Hi.
My name's Carrie. If I'm applying for the South Awards, do I need to put this in RAMP?
Do you know which program you're talking about?
The South Awards, it's not, I don't know, it's an annual art award.
South Awards, is it? Oh, I was thinking it was through South Arts. It's not through South Arts.
Yeah.
The South Awards. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'm not familiar with that program.
Because I apply for things all the time. If I need to be loading it into a system, it's a whole nother step. And the odds of winning aren't that good. I can apply as many times as you like.
Yeah.
it's not, I have a strange hope, it might be wrong, that when I apply for the Guggenheim, according to your office, I was told in 2014 that most professors apply 7 times, and within 7 times that they might win. So that is actually more optimistic than most of the odds in the arts.
Okay.
I've applied for some things up to 20 times over the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a law of
Okay, so you'd rather not have to like
it's a model of scarcity. The idea that I would have to take another step and put it in ramp would make it actually less attractive for me to apply to anything.
I'm looking for it here. Is it eligible to individuals or to organizations?
It's individuals. It's one of the ones you mentioned. It's the South Arts Awards, the 9.
Okay. Oh, so
but
the
it's just
South,
an
okay, so the South Arts Awards. I'm
Yeah, we need
familiar
to-
with the South Arts, like their jazz programs and stuff like that, but I don't remember this program, but it must be like their main program, but I don't know it. But if it's available to individuals, then no, you don't need to enter it into ramp. But
Awesome.
I can see a situation where if it was eligible to organizations, I don't even know how that would work, because they wouldn't even accept it because it wouldn't make any sense. But that would, right, that's fine.
Okay, great. No, I mean, there are just certain levels of responsibility and paperwork that are changing. Like, we're not supposed to leave campus without it going through Concur, even if we're not asking for funding. So I'm just asking what level of responsibility.
Okay,
we-
no, you're fine for this one for now. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, I'm sorry if I didn't explain this, but really every funding opportunity is very different and every individual is different. So that's why I really do recommend like you work with me or Peggy rather than try to figure it out all on your own. And I didn't want this, I'm sorry if this PowerPoint, I didn't want it to seem like, oh, these are the 12 steps you'll have to take. These were really just 12 general steps. I kind of wanted to provide like a lot of faculty members feel like they don't even know what they're getting into. I just want to provide a general overview, but really each opportunity will be different. So just, you can talk to me and I can help you. Okay, well, thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, well, if there are no questions, then I think I'll go ahead and wrap up. And thank you, Carrie. I look forward to seeing you. Okay, all right, and I will be posting this on the my office has an on-demand learning page, so I'll be posting it there along with my PowerPoint. Okay, all right, have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.